Alright YouTube, in this video we are going to see how to create session in Laravel. As I have promised you in the previous tutorial, in this tutorial we are going to focus only on this session. As you can see on the screen in the menu bar we have three links. The third link won't work until there is a session. In other words, third link won't work until we log in. Fine, let me show you. And don't forget, we have the source code in the description. Don't forget to download it. And if you have any error, feel free to mail me. Fine. Now let's get into the tutorial first. Fine. And let me open in the incognito mode so that I can show you. If you click on credential details, it won't work because you haven't logged in. That's the reason it says login first. Now this is the third link. It says login first. Now I'm going to create account. Once I create account, the data is stored in the database, and the stored email address and password I will enter in the login. And once I log in, the credential details page opens up. Fine, this is the email address and this is the password. Now I'm going to submit. It will take me to the login page. Fine, now enter the email address which you have created right now, and if you click on submit, it will get you to the credential details. That means the session is created. Fine, click on submit. You will get into the credential page. These are the details, these are the list which you have fetched from the database. Now you can see the session is created and the page is showing up. These are the steps we are going to follow in this tutorial. I will leave this step in the description. Don't forget to use it. Fine, now we are getting into the database side first. The first thing is we have to create database first. We're not using model, so taking the model will using the model will take some time, so I'm directly creating table myself. The database name here I'm going to use this account, and now I'm going to create the table. Fine, let's the table name be accounts. I have used the table name as database name as account, and now it's accounts, and this is the column. I'm going to use it as a uh, we are going to insert column in the created table in the PHPMYADMIN. I forgot to miss this step, that's why I have typed it. Now this is the first column which would be of primary key. Let the max length be 200. Tick the auto increment. Now get into the name. This is the second column. The default length is 200. Email is the third column. Varchar 200, and password is the fourth column. It should be varchar, and max length can be 200. Once you click on save, your table would be created with 4 column. If you click on browse, now we are going to insert some value. Let's keep the ID because it is auto incremented. Let's have my name and my email address and password. Once you click on go, the data is inserted to the table. The table here is accounts. Fine, as you can see, these are the table which we have entered, data which we have entered on the table. We have to modify the env file. Before modifying the env file, we need to download the Laravel project first, and let's name it as account. Use the cmd to paste this code. Where I'm going to paste it, it is inside the C drive, inside XAMPP, inside htdocs, inside Laravel. So open the command prompt and get into the location, and at present I'm in the location as I have shown you in the folder structure. Now now you can see XAMPP htdocs Laravel, XAMPP htdocs Laravel. Now you can see I'm going to paste the code I'm copied. If I enter, you can see there is no folder name as account. Once the code runs, you will see the account is, it says it is successful. Once you can see the account folder has shown up. Now I'm going to show you the structure of the Laravel. Fine, now open the folder in the appropriate, or first open the project and run the project in the server. To run the server, you need to have the code php artisan serve, and it will show you the IP address where you can look for the project. And you can see once you run the IP address, this is the welcome page you're getting. We're going to see where this welcome page is loading from. For that, I'm going to open the Sublime text so that I can show you the folder structure clearly. We are going to open our project, which is account, and the welcome page is loading from resource folder. Inside resource we have views, and this is the welcome page. If you want, in place of Laravel, you can have your own name. If you refresh it, you will see Laravel is replaced with UI monk. Just by creating the page won't work. Laravel will find all the URL related to the web.php. Now we are going to see where the web.php is. If you don't understand, don't worry. There is a step called controller. I will clearly mention, or I will clearly make you understand what routes really does. Now we are getting into the routes folder. It is what Laravel understands. It is like the map. Laravel, if you are going to enter a URL, and Laravel will check all the URL in the routes folder. Inside the routes folder, we have a page called web.php. It has all the URL. Now let me show you. Inside the routes, we have web.php. It has a URL. The slash, it simply means the IP address right now, or you can say your domain. You can see if there is a slash, if there is a request for slash, then execute the function, and this function will execute 123. If you enter it, you can see it is going to return 123. Now we are going to create our page. This page will have common header, footer, and content, along with some repeating HTML tags, as you can see. And when there is a request for the domain, which is slash, this function will execute, and this function will return view. And what is the view? Now you can see the view is not created yet. These view are created inside the resources folder. Inside the resources you have view folder, and this is the place where view is going to get saved. At present we have named it as template. Let's type hello and comment it. If you refresh it, what it does is Laravel looks for the URL in the web.php, and in the web.php we have returned a view called template. Also we have created the template file on the views folder, which is in the resources folder. Fine. Now you can see hello has come up, and in this file we are going to create common header, footer, and common HTML, which is going to get repeated. Of course navigation is going to get repeated, so I'm going to copy the navigation code from the W3 school, and these are the tags which is going to get repeated on all the pages. Now you can see the page has loaded it fine. Now what we are going to do is, let's create header, content, and footer. Fine. The header will have the navigation, and footer, as you can see, will have some copyright or about, and the content, which is the body, which will have our form. Fine. The navigation gets into the header content. Now let's have a paragraph on the footer, and this paragraph will have class text and text center, which is a bootstrap class, so that it horizontally center itself on the footers div. So if you see, the paragraph has shown up, but this is not the right way. Footer should come in the bottom. For that we are going to have a style sheet, which will be which we will style it. Now use the link tag, and in the link tag we have use css folder. Inside css we have style.css file. Now where to load this, where we can find the style.css? There is no folder yet created. We have to create it on the public folder. We have used the folder name as css, and inside the folder name we have style.css class. So create the class as style.css. Now your Lara will understand it. Now if you refresh, it says I am style, so that means it has connected well. So at present you have learned how to link the style sheet in Laravel. Now I'm going to style the footer. Let's make it position fixed, bottom 0 pixel, and let's give the width as 100 percentage, background be black, and let the color of the text be white. Fine, copy it and paste it on the style sheet which we have created on the public folder. Fine, now this would show up. The next step what we are going to see is the CSS is also working fine because it got connected well. Now we are going to create the login page, create page, and credential page. Let's just create the page right now. I said all the pages are created inside the view. Let's have the name as login.blade.php, and right now whatever we write in the login.php, I want the login content to get displayed on this section called content, which can be done with the help of the keyword yield. And don't forget the content, we need to pass the same parameter on the login session as well. Now this content will be replaced with the yield. Fine, how are we going to do this? Is the inherited page, so we need to extend the parent is template view. We don't have to write template.blade.php. Laravel understands it, and in this section we are going to pass the content. This content keyword is as same as the yield, so just pass it. And if you type a heading or you can say anything, it will be loaded on the screen. But before that, let's just create the page. We need a form. Once the email, don't forget to write the name because it is used to access the inputs field on the controller. We don't need the checkbox at present, remove it. Once we enter the input field, if you click on submit, it will go to the other page, and this, let's name this page as login submit. And this is the URL, don't forget, we will look after it. Now we are going to create the create page. We don't forget to write the blade.php, and it will have one more input field which is name. And don't forget to give the name attribute to the input field. As I said, it is used to access the input field from the controller. For tutorial purpose, let's make it input type equal to text, not the email or password. Fine, now we are going to create the credential page. This credential page will have the list of values retrieved from the database, so it would be some ul and li. The first one would be name, the second one would be email, and the third one would be password. And these ul, we will use the for loop to fetch value and display it on this list page. We have created all the pages. Now we are going to decide what is the URL will be. So for login page, the URL should be login. For create account page, the URL would be, you can have anything. For our convenient, we are going to just have create. For credential details or list, we are going to have the URL as list. We have created, please note, now we have created the page and we have created the URL. If you click on any links, it won't work. If you refresh it, it won't work. We let's make it inverse so that it becomes dark. If you click anything, it will show 404 error. This is because Laravel does not know where the file created file is. We know the created file is inside the resource folder. Inside resource folder we have views. Inside views we have placed all the 3 files, but Laravel doesn't know. What Laravel will do is Laravel will search the URL on the web.php, which is in the routes folder. So for that we have to create route file. Route file is already created. So for all the links, we are going to create a function on the web.php. As I have shown you a little earlier, get into the routes folder, get into the web.php, and let's create the route for the login page. When there is a request for login, then load the view called login. Login is simply the name of the login.blade.php. So if you save and refresh it, it will load. Now the same way we are going to use the route. When there is a request for URL create, then load the view called create. This create is simply the create.blade.php. When there is a request for list, then load the file list.blade.php. Fine, everything seems working fine, but this is not the recommended way. This is absolutely the easy way, but not the recommended way. The recommended way is by creating the controller. Now we are going to create controller. So get into the command prompt, press Ctrl C to exit and get into the write mode. PHP artisan make controller, and let the name of the controller be page helper. Once this is done, a controller is created, and if you refresh it, it won't work because the server isn't working. For that, PHP artisan serve will give you the URL. Now it will work fine. Let me show you where the controller is, and let me show you the correct way of routing. So get into the, now I'm going to show you the controller where it will be inside the app folder. Inside app we will have HTTP folder. Inside HTTP folder we have controller folder, and this is our created controller. Now we are going to create function. What function? Whatever we have written, what I'm going to do is, when there is a request for login, please note, when there is a request URL request for login, the Laravel need to look the function on the controller. Here our controller page is page helper. Previously, as you can see on the create route, when there is a request for URL create, Laravel will run the second parameter, that is, it will return the view. But this is not the right way. We have to write this function inside the controller. That's what I'm going to do. Now when there is a request for URL login, get into the page helper, which is our controller, which you can find on the folder structure HTTP controller and page helper, and write the same function. Previously it was nameless function, and we are going to name it as login. To use this function, we have to use the @ sign and the log function name. Fine, if you click on login, it will work, and this is the right way. We are going to do, there was a mistake because we haven't corrected the env file, which we have missed on the database section. Modify the env file. For that, you see the env file, and change the database name. We know our database name is account, which we have created, and save it and run the server again. It will work. If that doesn't work, refresh it with hard refresh it with Control Shift R. Let's hard refresh it. I haven't saved it yet. There is a login. It says, yeah, it will get into the login page. Let me save this. Yeah, now it will work. So when there is a request for login, both are working fine, but the recommended way is creating function on the controller. We are going to do the same for the create. When there is a request for URL create, go to the controller and run the function. Previously it was nameless function, but we are going to name it now, and the name would be create. And this function we have to use it after the @ symbol. The same way for list, when there is a request for URL list, get into the controller, and the controller will have the function. Paste the nameless function here, or you can say anonymous function, and give the name as list and call or use the name list on the route. Fine. Create. It is working fine. It is also working fine. There was an error. List doesn't exist. Let me see what it is. I haven't saved yet. That's the reason. Control S. Now it will work. Fine. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create model. The creation of model is not the right way. Just to save time, we are just going to create the page, a page called model, which will access all the database value. For that, get into the command prompt, press Ctrl C to get into the edit mode. PHP artisan make model. Let the model name should be same as the database name. In this tutorial we have manually created the table, but the model will itself create the table. Since it is time consuming, we have manually created it. That's not the issue. The scope of this tutorial is just the session, so we are going to concentrate more on session. Fine, you can find the model on the app folder. Fine, now we are going to insert value in the model. For insertion we need to get into the create account page. Once you click on submit, let's call the create account page. Inside the resources views, and inside the views we have a file called create.blade.php. Once you enter name, once you enter address, once you enter password and click on submit, it will get into the URL called login submit. Please note it is the URL, and it says page 404 error because Laravel doesn't know, or Laravel doesn't have any URL name login submit. So for that, to map the login submit, we have to get into the web.php because Laravel does it. So when there is a request for the login submit URL, go to the controller and run the function. Let's have the function name as same as the URL. So get into the page controller, page helper, which is our controller. This is not the file, this is the file. Get into the function. We have named this same name as of the URL, and let's return anything. So once there is a request, it is going to enter whatever we write inside this block. So what do we need? We need to retrieve the input field value. We need to retrieve the input field value on this function. So for that we are going to use the object request, which will have the reference R, or you can say, yeah, R. Fine. We are going to use the model to access the database. So for that we have to use the model on the header. Use model, as I said, it will be inside the folder app. You can access it directly with the file name. Inside the app there is an account, which is the model we have created with the help of artisan. Now create the object of the account and give the reference as a, and this, with the help of a, we can access all the tables column. We have table column as name, we have table column as, and this table column, and this table column will be filled with the input field with the attribute name. Let me show you. And this is the first field, which can be accessed with reference, and with the function we are going to pass the name. This name is the attribute name of the input field. Likewise, we can access all the column and all the input field. And inside the parameter we are passing the attribute names value in the input field. These are the names which we have passed, and the reference of the model will have one more function, which is save. Once it is saved, I want it to redirect to the login page, redirect to another page, which is login page. Return key is a keyword, redirect is a function, and redirect will have the URL login. This is the URL. Let's have list, not no issues. Instead of login, let's have the name create, submit. Fine, name. Once you enter everything and click on submit, it will get into the URL called create submit. Lara will find the create submit URL on the web.php, which will be inside the routes, and yeah, and it will find the page helper controller. Inside the page helper controller we have, this will be inside the app controller page helper. Inside the page helper we have a function called create submit, and this is the exact way Laravel is going to find and run the insert code. Fine, refresh it, click on create. Now we are going to create an account, and this time it will be, we will have the account name as Dave, and the email address as dave@account.com, and the password be 123. If you click on submit, the database will be saved and it will be redirected to the list page. It shows there is an error. Let's see what it is. It says 404 error, it could not find the route create submit. I think I haven't saved it. Yes, now I have saved it. Now if you refresh, the database will be saved. Before that, please note the three values we have passed, but Laravel passes additional two columns. So for that, what you have to do is you have to make a variable false on the model. Please note we have created three column, four column in total. We are passing just the three column, but Laravel creates additional two column, which is created and updated time. To, if you don't want, just if one second, if you don't want that two column name, what you have to do is you have to use the timestamp variable and make it false. Now if you click on submit, it will, the data will be inserted and it will redirect you to the list page. Fine, now you can see the data is entered up to now. We are going to fetch the data from the database, and we are going to fetch the data on the credential page. We are going to fill this value. When there is a request for list, what Laravel will do is Laravel will get into the route page, route folder inside the web.php. It will find the URL list and get into the controller. As you know, controller is in the appropriate folder, and it will run this function, and this function is just returning the view. So Before returning view, I want to fetch all the value with the help of the function all on the model account and store the value with the variable name all db values. And we are going to pass the variable as the second parameter of the view, which would be of associative array. Sending values, and this is the variable name. We will access the sending values on the list page. First we will check whether there is the variable sending values is there or not. If it is there, then execute this block, and this block we will have just the text it's there. Yes, it is there, the data is fetched. Now we will run the for loop, or now we will run the for each loop. And this $val will have all our columns value. So ul will be repeated with the help of $val, and it will have the attribute name. This is the column name, this is not the input name. We are accessing the column name right now from the variable $val. Now the data is fetched. Now we are going to see how to use select and where in Laravel. So once you enter your email address and your password on the login page and click on submit, in the next page you will see the related details of the email address and password. The related address here is the related field here is just the name and the ID. Please understand, if you enter email address and password and click on submit, you will get the relevant details of the email address and password entered. Here the relevant field are just the ID and the name. This is what we are going to do. If you click on login, this is done. When there is a request for the URL login, Laravel will get into the routes folder. Inside routes, web.php. Inside web.php there is the login page, and login page will get into the controller. Inside the controller we have a function called login, which will run the login view. So open the login view, which will be inside the resources folder. Inside the resources folder we will have views folder. Inside the views folder we will have login page. Once we enter the email address, password and click on submit, there will be a request for the URL login submit. So there we haven't created the login submit route on the web.php, so it will show 404 error. Now we need to create the route on the web.php so that Laravel can understand what to do. So when there is a request for the URL login submit, Laravel will get into the web.php. Inside Laravel will get into the web.php and find the page helper controller, and inside the page helper controller it will have a function called, let's have the same name as of the URL, and to access the input field as like previous we are going to use the object request. $r is the reference, and now use the model. With the select function we need all values, we need all of the field values, and these are the conditions we are going to pass. we will pass the three value. The first one would be the column name, the second one is the operator. Column name here is here going to be email, and equal to, and this is the input field we are going to pass. We are going to pass the input field email. We are not just passing the email, we are also passing the password field also. This email is simply the name attribute. This is not a constant, this is a string. Copy the same step again. This time it is the password column name equal to operator, and this is the input field name attribute. Once this is done, get the value and show it. Show it simply means return. So you can see this is already been created. We will use the same account. Once we have once we click on submit, all the field related to this account shows up. That's what I meant to say, or meant to show. This, you can see ID and name has shown up when we enter the email address and password. Fine, we have also seen. Now we are going to create a session. This session is created just after the login. So we will pass all the values in the sense we are going to pass the email address and password on the session. To create a session, get the reference and open the session function and pass the function to the put. This is the first parameter which can access the session values, and the second parameter will simply the session, and the session is going to be all the field from the all the entered field. Here in this case it is email address and password. Once the session is created, we are going to check the session values. After the session value is created, let's redirect it to the list page. So once you log in, it is redirecting to the list page. Yes, let's check again. Once we log in, we want the session to be created and it need to be redirected to the credential page. Session created and it will return to the list page. Fine, click on submit, list page will show up. Yes, session is created. We are going to access the session on the list page. If the session is created, then show the values. If the session is not created, then don't show. We will access the session with the help of class session. To access it, we are going to use the variable log data. We are just printing it. To use the session class, we have to use it on the top. Use session. If you click on list, you can see the entered value. We can access it with the help of session. Now use the if else. If we have session, if session is empty, if session is empty, we what we need to do, if session is empty, we have to give the text login. If the session is not empty, then we have to show all the values. Fine. Instead of returning the text, we are just going to redirect. If the session is not set, it will redirect you to the login page. If you click on credential details, at present we are in the incognito mode, so the session is not yet created. So it will redirect you to the login. Fine. Now we are going to create the account. I hope you have clearly understood. The session is not set, so it is redirecting you to the login page. Now we are going to fill the value and going to test. Let's have the name happy and let the email be happy@account.com and let the password be happy@123. We are going to use the same email address and password, and whether we check whether we can access the credential list, session is created and we can access it. Let's check again. Credential list, it is not working because session is not yet created. It is redirecting to the login page. In the next tutorial we are going to focus on the middleware. Since we have only one page, we have used session. What if there is the multiple pages? Definitely for multiple pages we have to use if else on each function. Instead of using if else on each function on the on the controller, we will create a common file and place the function. Check what the function will do. It will check whether there is session or not. If there is a session, it will let you proceed. If there is no session, it will redirect you to the login page. And this function we will place it in a common file which is a middleware, and this middleware will be appended on all the pages. This is the topic of the next tutorial. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Actually I don't need it. Thanks for listening. Get the source code in the description.